Focus, deep breath, and we're live. Tobe, how are you? This
We have the most
fine
awkward
Thursday.
beginnings of any live podcast.
Trying to ground myself.
Yeah.
Look, it's been chaotic.
hmm
It's been busy.
Well,
Uh,
I mean, bless your heart. You do a lot of prep work for this live show. Um, and sometimes I do very minimal prep for this live show. And life catches up with us. And so the people should know that Jill has done her due diligence here as far as prep. And so we have kind of a whole itinerary to get through. So I'm proud of you. Thank you for doing that.
you know, I I'd like to think that I'm one of those people that can just wing it and wax poetic on cue. I'm
Not
not.
not today.
I'm a oh God, not today. No, I'm like running on no sleep. So
Eh,
let's see here.
yeah.
We have one person with us.
No, we got several. They're coming in.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I can't see, and I don't have the chat on because if I have the chat on, I get very
Okay. All
distracted.
right.
So,
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, let me get rid of
okay,
it.
okay. So I'm starting to see some of our familiar people here. Yeah, we're just gonna talk for a little bit, just so people know. So today, and we'll talk about this as we get into the show. But Brett
Okay.
and
Yeah.
I were on the road for a week, and it was a lot of work. Mike wasn't with us, so and usually when it's just the three of us, we're usually doing the work of like a 5 or 6 person crew.
Yeah.
And so then it was just Jill and Brett doing the work of a 5 or 6 person crew. And it's as exciting and fun as it is, it's extremely exhausting and it
hmm
wears you down. And then, so we got back late Tuesday night, had a chance to catch our breath yesterday. And then we were filming on another documentary this morning. Yeah.
So are you doing the rigging and stuff like that Mike would usually do, like placing lights and framing shots?
Well, yeah. I mean, Brett. So Mike is our lead, our head, like our cinematographer, but
Yeah.
Brett is capable as well.
hmm
So, but what we don't have is Mike brings a whole magic kit of like lighting and
Yeah.
grip stuff too, and that expertise in knowing where to put things and how to move things and manipulate
hmm
and just that kind of paint. A cinematographer is basically painting with light. That's their job. They're painting the picture and just making it beautiful.
hmm
And it's hard when you don't have that extra person there who that's their
Yeah.
specialty, and it gets complicated because we're also not only is Brett running camera, he's having to monitor sound.
Mhm.
I'm doing grip work and camera assist as well as doing the interview. So it's
Just tell people what grip work is so there's no confusion.
oh okay, like well one like schlepping gear. So
Okay, there we go.
basically, and setting up lights, setting up tripods, setting things up. I mean,
Okay.
I'll tell you what. When we were up in Alaska for Shane Land's interview,
Yeah.
when we went into the Bigfoot Art Gallery, Rob Roy's gallery up in Palmer, Brett went in ahead with his camera and stuff and was like, "Oh hi, nice to meet you." I come in and there's no excuses on the film set. It's like everyone, you show up, you're working. So I come
hmm
in schlepping all this gear, and he looks at me. He's like, "Oh, you must be the production assistant." And I was like, "No, I'm the producer." It's like we don't have a PA to do to be schlepping all this stuff. But
Right.
you were with us up at Sierra Camp. You saw. I mean,
Well, it is a total dance. I mean, it's so much gear, and it's not in a cargo van. It's not like in a production wagon. You guys have it in your personal vehicle. And so just to watch you guys pack
it's
is
like
a whole
Tetris.
it's a whole discipline, and you have to decide what can stay and what can go. And then you're cramming Mike in the mix here in your personal vehicle, um, you know, and you guys don't kill each other, which is like really remarkable. Like you guys are having cracking jokes, and there's not a lot of It's a beautiful thing, right?
We have fun. We have
Yeah.
fun. Sometimes those car rides get a little long, but we make the best of it. So,
That's when you're texting.
so just it looks like we have some people here, and I notice a lot of our usual suspects are here, but every few live streams, I feel like I have to jump in and say because there's always someone later on in the comments who has concerns and objections on how we're doing things. This
Oh.
is our weekly live stream. This is Jill and Tobe checking in with our audience and just kind of
Hmm.
recapping what's going on. This this is not a format where we're interviewing people. This is not a format where we are releasing podcasts and whatnot. This is
Hmm.
just a very informal. We don't take ourselves too seriously.
I'm horrible at this too, like introducing myself before an audience. Like that's an area where I fail constantly. So you're absolutely right. We assume that people are going to know who the hell we are, and that's probably wrong. So I'm glad you did that. My name is Tobe Johnson, and Brett, Jill, and Mike were nice enough to ask me on to their production team for Flash of Beauty 1 and 2. And now we're putting the puzzle pieces together for Voices in the Wilderness. And it's been a real learning curve and an adventure for me, adventure of a lifetime, especially for a guy that's been obsessed with the subject to have the right people invite me in. Well, I probably wouldn't have joined if it wasn't the right people, to be fair. But yeah, you guys, you have earned your street cred in this community, and you're not wasting anyone's time here. I hope we're not wasting your time. If we do, we delight in it, and it's for our benefit. But um,
Ha 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 ha.
yeah, we've got a lot to talk about each and every week related to the subject, and sometimes off the subject a little bit.
Yeah, but you know what? There's always room for off-topic
Hmm.
conversation. So now that we did the disclaimer and did the housekeeping items about you guys just don't take this too seriously. This is very casual. Let's get into it. So first off, just I do want to ask you, Tobe.
Hmm.
There is a big solar storm going on or solar activity going on tonight. Are you privy to this? Do you have clear skies to see the northern lights tonight?
Well, if those pesky chemtrails would go, no.
Off topic.
Like I
Off
said,
topic.
yeah, so I thought about actually going up to about, I think I can get up to about 4,500 feet within 45 minutes of my back door to a place called Deer Park, which would look over straight at the northern light possibilities. So I've been looking at Facebook before we got on here. It looks like it's going down in Florida right now with tremendous lights as well, which is crazy.
Wait, not
Eugene,
northern
Oregon.
lights? They're getting northern lights or
Well, Alaska obviously is getting like crazy, but I just saw a picture from a gal named Susan Hill, and she's either in North Carolina or I think she's in North Carolina actually at the moment volunteering, and she was taking pictures of green, purple, and pink lights. So I don't know what else that would be. That looked like the aurora to me, but I've only seen it once, and that's when it went crazy bonkers here, and everyone saw it like a couple months ago.
everyone but
So
me and Brett and Mike because we were in San Diego filming.
yeah. I mean, someone come on the chat and tell me to go pound sand. Is it not possible to see the northern lights on the East Coast in North Carolina? I don't know. I didn't ask her, but so yeah, I want to see a solar event, and I may just stay up all night looking for it.
Okay. Well, I know tonight we're headed out away from city lights to see what we can see. So we can take photos and post them all over social media that look
But see, this
identical
is what I'm
to
talking about.
everyone
Like,
else's.
you guys have had no sleep. You just got back from. You guys are I mean, but this speaks to like the passion of what you guys are doing because I mean, I most of the time there would be a woman saying like, "Hell, I'm going out tonight. My feet are getting rubbed. I'm not going anywhere." And you're like full steamed ahead. That's pretty rare.
You know what? I'm here. I came to this. I came into this existence for the full
Okay.
experience. I'm here to do it all. And
Yeah,
you
but
know
you're not
what?
20 anymore. So this is like super rare.
I cry a lot when I'm alone.
Okay.
No, no, it's cool. I mean, we're having beautiful weather in the Pacific
Yeah.
Northwest, unusually nice and warm. Again, that's an off-topic conversation we'll save for a different podcast, but it's beautiful. I don't mind getting out. I know like 2 months from now we're gonna be in that Pacific Northwest, Oregon rain until like May. So
Hmm.
let's enjoy it while it lasts. But yeah, so if anyone else, I'm gonna challenge you, people listening. If you get shots of the Northern Lights, please share them with us. Share them on, just tag us on Facebook or whatnot, or go into the community tab and let us know where we can see your photos. Because as much as I'd just be curious just to compare, like regionally, like geographically, like how much they look alike and not, because I have a feeling you see
Hmm.
one, you see them all, but I
Well,
could be wrong.
does it increase? Today we were talking about how storms and electrical discharges may increase the phenomena. I don't know why it wouldn't, because it makes perfect sense if you're having some kind of conduit or electrical conductivity with, an atmospheric change, a discharge of sorts. Maybe it amps up a paranormal event. And so maybe this would be a good time to go out in the woods to find a spot like in Washington. We'll talk about an encounter that happened not too far from where I live. Maybe this is a time. I mean, I've had crazy stuff happen during rainstorms, windstorms.
That's a good point. So maybe,
Get out there.
yeah. So well, we were out filming all day today. I have an early call time in the morning for another film
Oh,
shoot.
tomorrow you're going to be going even
Yeah,
hot. Okay.
yeah. So, haha, go get it. I'm manifesting the life
You
I
need some of my
asked
Jet
for.
Alert from Walmart, which is like their Kirkland brand of Vibrant, and it's got like a little jet plane. It's probably like street legal crack that I can get for $3 from
Oh,
Walmart.
perfect. I just chew whole espresso
Go get a
beans. It is
couple Jet Alerts in your system.
perfect. So and
Yeah.
also, so hey, just shifting gears really quick. We've been monitoring how our Bigfoot friends, I mean researchers, not actual
Right.
cryptids.
Right.
But no, seriously, we've been kind of monitoring, checking in to make sure people are okay in Florida. So there's still a few. There's still a few people
Oh
we're
yeah.
waiting to hear from.
Let's check on Marcia's while you're talking here. I'm going to check
Okay.
because Marcia became more of a flash of beauty, moved to North Carolina near what is called the Pisgah National Forest, right outside of Ashland. Her studio, we talked a little bit about it last week, was pretty much destroyed from about 4 feet down. So she had a GoFundMe that was just about there. And so let's see where she
Oh,
is.
nice.
I think that she might have reached her goal. If not, you can still make a donation. So Marcia is $1,500 or about 13 or $1,200 short of her goal, and I think the way this works is they've got 30 days to make their goals, so that gives her another couple weeks. So if you have a chance, go to Marcia K. Moore on Facebook, or just go to GoFundMe and type in Restore Marcia's Studio, and Tire Squatch will come up. That's her company name for her recycled bicycle tires made into beautiful sculptures.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that people have come together to support her and whatnot.
Hmm.
I gotta say, we still haven't. We've been checking on John Urban, famous John Urban, who he's an illustrator. He's an artist. He does a lot of Bigfoot themed art, and he has coloring books. A lot of Ken Hamilton has a lot of his stuff at the Sasquatch the Legend
Oh yeah.
shop. So I haven't I haven't seen any recent updates from John, but Marie Dumont, bless her, just I absolutely love her. She headed, while most people were fleeing out of state, a lot of people went down south, like towards Miami. And so she was posting photos. She waited out the storm in Key West. And I'm sure they got some weather, but I was glad to see that she was posting and she's okay. So there's still a few people out there that we're waiting to hear from, but
Yeah, because Ron's in North Carolina. Ron Moorhead and his wife Carrie, her parents, they all picked up and moved from Squim out to North Carolina. We have Daryl down in Oklahoma, Daryl Adams. So
did
that
he
whole
get hit with it? Was it was he
no, but I
affected?
think he was in Oregon when it all went down. So I don't know if he hops on here. We could find out. So I don't know. That whole eastern seaboard is hurricane country. It's real sketchy this time of year. Yeah,
Yeah.
no bueno.
Yeah. So, well, Florida, North Carolina, Mid Atlantic, we're thinking of you. So, hey, just really quick, right before we hopped on, I was going through Facebook, actually, when I was messaging you about, hey, these are the things I'd like to talk about. There was a post on the Sasquatch Highway Facebook page. And if you're not following Sasquatch Highway, send them a friend request. Follow their page. A lot of good stuff there. But Derek Armstrong made a post, and I was just like, I said, I have to mention this in the live stream. Um, so Derek posed this question to Bigfoot skeptics. Why would a U.S. president, our police, firemen, park rangers, and hired contractors make reports on something they don't believe exists? And that really struck a chord because it's not only like these officials that are like, as Rich would say, what does he always say? I'm a trained observer, and these are people who are out in these situations who have to be very aware of what's going on
Mhm.
around them. But not only that, but just ordinary people. Your Rory Neary of Close Encounters, like suburban dad types out in the woods,
Mhm.
whatnot. What's the purpose of saying that you saw something that could bring a lot of ridicule, damage your reputation, and how others think about you? Like, what would be the payoff? What are your thoughts on that?
It's that would be a dumb move, career wise. Um, all the conspiracies are true. that's, I mean, that's where we are right now. Is I think that there's a comfortableness with the word conspiracy to where there was the shame before that you're going to be the outcast, and because of people like Rich, hell, because of people in the BFRO that are apers that are looking into this, and because of all the transparency coming down and the fact that there's no X Files music playing in the background anymore when these strange stories come up, I think people have this. They're going to whisper it perhaps, but now they're going to, they don't need any liquid courage to talk about it, and including these guys in uniform. I mean, now that there's a program for witnesses, pilots included, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Graves, I think, is the guy that started this safety protocol for pilots to come through and talk about their close encounters while they're flying. They never talked about it before. Now there's a whole whistleblower thing for UAPs. And so the bleed over effect, I think, is happening here as well. That's my thought on it.
Okay.
But
Okay.
Rich is kind of Rich Germeau has a lot of people that want to hear what he has to say, as it pertains to him being a trained observer, who's when he was a lawman, even Rick Taylor, those things were admissible in court to a degree that means something in a court of law as far as viability, provability, and so. Yeah, I mean, and Rick's work, that would have not benefited him at all to
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah. I just think, I think it's like it's like we've been saying, the paranormal is normal. Let's normalize the conversation, remove the stigma,
Hmm.
and the more that we start talking about this, the more information sharing we can do, and we move the ball down the field, to use a sports term, just to connect with.
You're such a jock. Jockette.
So, so yeah, I just thought, I read that and I was like, it's worth repeating. Like, what's the benefit? Why would these people in these positions lie about it? So,
Well, and we have the benefit of being artists, so it's no sweat to our game. And we really don't understand what there is to lose in a degree that they could lose it all based upon just being blacklisted or depromoted or pushed aside. You know, if you're not invited to these cocktail dinners, it doesn't mean anything to me, but it means a lot to other people, and it's a symptom of what's to come. And people just don't want to lose that kind of influence. And so I get it why they stay closed mouth, but people are going to have a lot of egg on their face in the future. I think it's coming really quick.
yeah. I don't know. You talk about these VIP cocktail dinners and whatnot. That's great and all. I love a
It
good.
sounds really good right now. Please
I
invite me to your cocktail parties. Don't not invite me.
I love that stuff. However, I know
Yeah.
the real good stuff comes out around a bonfire
Oh
after a
yeah.
couple beers. So
Yeah.
just putting that out there.
Okay.
Invite
Good
me
enough.
to those too. Let's move along. I want to talk about, recently there's been talk about a pretty extraordinary encounter in Washington State.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I just kind of scrolling through, I read it a few places. Can you speak on it more? I know it was involved a woman who was camping, correct?
In Washington, yeah, relatively recently. I just want to refresh because it's just all kind of got posted today. The BFRO mentions that I would appreciate if anybody on chat doesn't mention the actual city or province it's in since it's so close to my home and it is active. Just a reminder to people, if you have a location that's promising and yielding the strange and unusual as it benefits you as a researcher, just give it a nickname. Something crazy. I don't care. Just do it for yourself. It'll get less traffic. However, these guys are making a report, so yeah. Anyway, so yeah, relatively close to where I live in Sequim, Washington, 2024 July, so midsummer.
Okay.
Actually, I was camping in that area in July, about 10 minutes up the road within that month. But it goes on to talk about a close encounter of what appears to be, I believe it says a juvenile Bigfoot, right? That is approaching someone in a tent, a
Mm-hmm.
female in a tent. And it sounds like she's in a group setting, and there's been some strangeness kind of amping up over a period of days. And it smacks of a little bit of flash of beauty because there's some contact that happens through the tent on this woman. She's gripped by, I believe, the arm because there's a bruise that they have a photo of,
Larry Turner
and
style, just right
Larry
through the.
Turner style. But this one went for a ride. It jumped on the air mattress and kind of, it sounded like it kind of like was interesting in the flexibility of what was going on with this air mattress. That was my take.
But Mel Skahan talks about that too. Like when he's been out camping, and like they'll settle in for the night, and then do 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 do. You hear them coming into camp, and they're pushing down on the tent, like where the tent is getting pushed down right in front of their face, and
Yeah.
Mel's having to tell them, "Okay, guys, knock it off." Do 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 do, and then they take
Let's
off.
just read it. It's really short. We'll just read it real quick here. Observed. I was told by the property has been in the family since the 1800s. I remember when I was a small child going there and something happened that scared me so bad I never wanted to go back. 50 years later, I decided to go back for a family reunion camping on the property. We got there on July 2nd, about 12 p.m. We set up camp in the tents. They were pop-up tents with covers. The covers, the air vent, and the net with the windows. What else does it say? Afterwards, we visited with two family members that were staying in the cabin. Each day it was clear and hot, and the nights were clear and very cold. The whole time we felt like we were being watched. We had an uneasy feeling about being there. We heard lots and lots of noises, roaring, growling, not like the animal variety that's natural from large animals around there. Then they heard whooping sounds. It was one area, then over off to the side, I joked about it, that almost sounded like they were talking to each other, and lots of other animal sounds that I recognized mixed in.
Hmm.
We would hear frogs croaking, and then all of a sudden, stop. And then we would hear crackling of sticks, breaking of branches. My uncle said it was just animals. We went to bed at 12:30. About 1 a.m., my mom sat up and looked behind her at the back of the tent and then moved over and laid back down, went to sleep. The next night, the same thing happened again with my mom. The third night, we sat by the fire pit. My mom went to bed at 11 and slept in the car. My grandson and I went to bed at 11:26. We heard lots of fireworks going off. Oh, because of the holiday, yeah. Echoing through the valley. Since my mom was sleeping in the car, I moved the air mattress, queen-sized, about 3 feet tall, to the center of the tent. I laid it on the side closest to the door on the right side to be able to see the door. Okay, we're getting the picture here. I climbed into the sleeping bag and put on another blanket on top of the sleeping bag. I zipped up the sleeping bag, covered my head, and put the flashlight inside of the sleeping bag with me, just in case my grandson yelled for me. I wasn't tired, so I don't remember falling asleep. When I slept, it was always a light sleep, so I could hear my grandson. So I was half asleep, half awake the whole time. Then, all of a sudden, I felt the back of the tent touch my back, and then something grabbed my arm and started shaking the air mattress violently. Then a bright white light starts shining on the back corner up off the ground of the tent, but there was no noise. Okay. Bing, 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 bing. Just so you know, this kind of report goes in the flats. If you're a BFRO investigator, this is where this kind of report, and Scott Taylor, if he was here, even Aaron, who was in the BFRO for a while, and anybody online, the very mention here of a bright white light that starts shining on the back corner up off the ground in proximity to a Bigfoot report would put this in the no-go category called the flats, where only investigators of BFROs could access this. Not
Hmm.
anymore. I was so scared I could see the light through the blanket and sleeping bag. Whatever it was stopped shaking and bouncing the air mattress and let go of my arm, and the light disappeared. I turned on my flashlight, sat up quickly, looked at my cell phone. It was 1:46. 1:46. I looked at the back of the tent. It was moved forward 5 to 7 feet. I got up and went and checked my sleeping grandson. He was fine. I moved the cover of the tent forward. The cover was still where I'd originally staked it to the ground next to the woods. I moved it to cover the tent back up. I was confused about what just happened. I didn't sleep the rest of the night, obviously. When daylight came, I packed everything up and went back home to Lacey, Washington. Well, that's a bit of a distance. I wasn't going to stay another night there. I didn't feel at ease until about halfway home. When I got home, I told my son what happened. Then he went and took a shower. Wow. Okay, that's an interesting detail. When I got done, I was looking in the mirror and putting deodorant on and noticed fingerprints on my left arm and showed my son. He took a picture of it. Also of note, I left on Friday. By Sunday, I was told that my uncle, who's a paraplegic in a wheelchair, who was staying in the cabin on the property, was found staring, and he didn't know where he was. 911 was called, and they took him to the hospital. A couple days later, he died. No witnesses. Any other stories I didn't want to ask? This was early morning, 1:45, very cold out on a family property on the bottom of a mountain range. So this was followed up by Scott Taylor. Okay,
Mm.
so I didn't know this. So Scott followed up on this, and there's a really interesting map here I didn't see this till just now. There's actually an aerial view, pencil drawing map of where things went down on the property. And, Scott Taylor is no slouch. He's a retired aerospace manager. He lives down the road here, basically an hour and a half from me in Mason County. He had his first Bigfoot encounter in 2005 when he was stalked by a Sasquatch and later heard vocalizations. So he's been at this a while. So that's the right guy, especially. See, now this is the way it works, though, is that Scott is into the woo. And so they're giving Scott probably those kind of cases, right? Because he's,
He's
he's
open
not
to it.
he's
He's
not going
open
to stay
minded.
quiet about it. So I mean, that's an amazing report, way better than what I was going to read. So go look it up. It's on bfro.net. Just try not to post the city.
Yeah, I mean, was interesting. I'd love to know more about the family history of who owns the family that's owned the land and like
Mm.
through the generations, what kind of encounters there have been.
I'll
So
have to I'll have to talk to Scott about that because that could be a very interesting follow up.
yeah, so that's a lot. It's a lot
That
going
was a
on.
lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
way more interesting than a Sasquatch jumping on an air mattress.
Well, thank you for reading the full account instead of doing the Jill Snyder Reader's Digest version where it's
Well,
like, yeah, it grabbed her and
it
there's
kind of it
air
was pulling me
mattress.
in. I didn't want to miss the details there. It was getting more interesting.
Perfect. So, oh, and I also want to mention, for those of you who've asked, because it was part of the housekeeping talk, we have started recording the podcast again. And we will be, so for those of you who don't know, after we did the first movie, we went back and we started interviewing everyone, kind of like a follow up, like what's happened since we filmed A Flash of Beauty, Bigfoot Revealed, and then we put it out there. It's on the channel. We just started doing that again for the sequel. So there were some people from the first movie that were also in the first movie, but they carried more in the second movie. So we'll be
Mhm.
catching them this time around. And we should, I think those will be starting to release by the end of the month.
Man, I think Halloween would be a good time to shoot for. So, if you have Spotify, iTunes, whatever platform you're going to, this will be a video format for YouTube and Facebook links, and then an audio format for people that are out sawing logs and want to listen to something crazy. We got more stories to talk about, and our first interview is going to be a banger. I won't say who it is, but these are really fun to get back into because there's just so much information, right? Like we're not just rehashing Flash of Beauty stuff. This is like a documentary in itself.
No, there's always more, and I always feel limited because like we've said before, when we post the full interviews, I feel like everyone that we've sat with could be their own documentary. Like we could just focus on them and tell their story and get into their lives. But
I mean, I remember just for example, like I didn't know if I'd ever get anything new out of Meldrum, and we interviewed him because he's in the doc, and I asked him about UFOs. I think the guy knows more about what's going on than me, or for sure. Like he's totally paying attention to UFO disclosure. I thought that was so cool, that he cared, right? Like there's room in his scientific brain to elaborate on the details here. Maybe now this is me drawing a conclusion, but looking at a day for disclosure for this and how it's being handled, I don't know.
mhm.
But those are the kind of things that we're trying to do. Go deeper.
Yeah, so I'm excited. We've saved some good interviews.
Meldrum
So
was just on TMZ.
he was. There was like someone was filming a commercial, and oh my goodness, we
Oh, you
released
talking
some of the
about
footage to make it look like it's like
the Jack Links thing? Yeah.
yeah. So
Okay.
Jack
Nice.
Links, by the way, who I reached out to see if we could get some free jerky
At least.
for our trip to the Sierras. I made this big thing, no response. So that's okay. I went to Costco and I bought what was it I bought? Chomps or whatever, chomp sticks. So we were we were fueled by
Oh, I
alternate
know what you're talking
jerky.
about. Yeah.
Yeah. I had it in my, I was carrying it around my pockets. Yeah.
I like the
So
spicy ones.
and also we had when Brett and I were coming back from our film shoot for the Columbia River, the jetty documentary, we get a phone call. Daryl Wilson. Daryl
Oh,
Wilson calls to let us know he is a featured speaker this weekend at, let me make sure I get this right, at the MCO Paranormal Conference, and that's in southern Utah, being hosted by the Museum of the San Rafael, and he'll be speaking Saturday at noon. And it's always such a treat to speak with Daryl because this guy is he hustles. He's a mover and a shaker when it comes to engaging with people and getting their stories and their eyewitness accounts and stuff. I don't know at this point how many voice recorders he has for recording people's stories, but he's always on the go. And he was sharing like some bits and pieces of some recent stories that were shared with him, and
okay.
we are long overdue since we weren't at Phenomicon. We missed out on being able to sit with him and hear what he's up to, but he just wanted to check in with us. He's going to be showing his segment from the documentary with everyone, and even on the YouTube channel, people will occasionally post. They're like, "Is Daryl? Is he okay? What's his
Oh,
status?
what's his status? Yeah.
Is he still with us?" And I'm like Daryl Wilson and Daryl Adams. If in case there's any confusion on which Daryl we're talking
Now
about,
there
but
would be a car ride.
they're a lot. And oh my gosh, they're alive and well and very busy. So I just wanted to give everyone the update. If you are in Utah and can make it down to MCO Paranormal Conference, go see Daryl, say hello, and you will have a warm welcome from him.
Yeah. Well, I saw Daryl in one of the promos of Phenomicon, or maybe they were just surfing the lobby there, and he has a lanyard on, so I know it's an official title. It's not just Daryl walking around now; it's Daryl coming around with a lanyard. So it
He
means
was a speaker the first year. The first year he was a speaker at Phenomicon talking about his experience in Alaska. That's how Brett heard him speak, and he's just like, Jill, we got to interview him. And then Daryl sat in with me on the next speaker. We listened to another speaker together after that. But gosh, time has flown by. It's
I want to bring another Phenomicon contact up as well. Trey Hudson, who I met at Phenomicon, has been featured in a recent Discovery Channel episode regarding his group here, which is entitled Anomalous Studies and Observation Group, or ASOG. Gifted me these wonderful patches
nice.
for gear. We got the Da Vinci Man, and then we have this one here. There's something going on in the field. If you watch the episode with Trey Hudson, just go on Facebook and you can find a clip of what happened in this field. It's very reminiscent of other power spots, and he's a remarkable investigator. I mean, he puts his heart into this. So check out Trey Hudson, the Meadow Project, and the Anomalous Studies Observation Group.
And
Thank you,
we had a
Trey.
chance to go out with Trey when Ryan Skinner took us out into the field out at Blind Frog Ranch. So
I mean, I can't believe the stuff I've got to do because of you guys. I would not be doing any of this stuff if I wasn't hanging out with you guys. I swear to God, I don't have this kind of pull. You guys have got me in the door to some crazy places. And it's not stopping like what's coming next year. It's really cool.
but you know what, Tobe? Honestly, it's like You say please and thank you. Those are big ones. Those open a lot of doors. Just being a nice person and saying and
Yeah, but
being
you taught
polite.
me something. You said closed mouths don't get fed. That stuck in me so good. I was just like, I remember Jill said that. It's okay to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's an art to it, right? The art of the deal. And you got to go in there and you got to ask, but you can't be a pest. And then all of a sudden you're getting asked to do this stuff. So anyway, it's been really cool.
It's been fun. And if you're
Maybe
not
not
having
maybe not asked back, but you get asked once.
hey, as long as we're having
Right.
fun,
Right.
that's all that matters. And speaking of fun, you guys, next weekend, now we've been so busy, I've really dropped the
Right.
ball promoting this, but next weekend in Baker City, Oregon, the wild, wild west of Oregon, where the wagon trains came over from Independence, Missouri, the promised land at the end of the Oregon Trail. Um, we will be having a Bigfoot weekend hosted by the Geyser Grand Hotel. Very haunted, by the way, just in time for Halloween
Ooh.
season. If you're into that, allegedly, and we're gonna have so we'll be screening the movies. We're gonna have Angelique Benham will be there from Legacy Discoveries,
Oh.
and Ashley Stinnett from the sequel.
Oh.
Jeff Rohn.
Oh.
We're gonna do a panel discussion,
Oh.
and Brett and I are gonna be doing a. We're gonna on Sunday morning. We're gonna do kind of a presentation of what we've been up to with the Voices in the Wilderness documentary, and perhaps a sneak peek at some of the stuff we've filmed for A Flash of Beauty 3.
Yeah.
And I cannot. Rumor has it, as I've been in discussions over text messages the last 24 hours. Chris Kramer, whose video you might be familiar with on our
Oh
channel,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Chris and his wife might be in attendance. I cannot confirm nor deny, which is such a cop
Yeah.
out because I could be like, Cindy Lauper and Kenny
Oh, right.
Loggins are going to be in attendance. I cannot confirm or deny. But no, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just saying there's a chance some other people will be there, and it's going to be a small intimate gathering. It's not one of these giant conferences, so you'll have a lot of one-on-one time. This is more of like a very nice get together, and
Mhm.
I invite you to join us. The Geyser Grand Hotel, they've been friends and clients for over 20 years, maybe close to 25 years now for Brett,
Can
but
people get a room there or is it booked?
they might have some rooms left. I mean, I do know like the weekends, especially with this kind of weather because it's been so
Mhm.
beautiful, they might have some rooms left, but I would call and find out. You can go to the Geyser Grand website if you just Google it, or on their Facebook page, type in Geyser Grand. And there's if you can't make it out
Mhm.
next weekend, definitely make a note of it because they have so many events going year round. It's definitely worth checking out. They do a lobster weekend where they fly in lobsters from New England,
Oh. Oh, wow.
and you get to pick out your lobster. You're like that one, and it's fun.
That's next
It's a
level.
good time.
That's VIP stuff right there.
It's very exclusive, but we'll still invite you to these.
I'm just happy when they have the hot cheese at AM PM.
One of those fancy, what is it? The like when they
Right.
do the chocolate fondue, the
But
fountains,
that's
like the
yeah,
nacho
that's not where
cheese
I'm at.
fountains.
No, no, no. If they have a horchata and that crushed ice at AM PM, I'm like I'm in that zone.
How exotic!
Yes.
And just a little recap, because we touched on it earlier. So this past week, Brett and I were filming. We were on quite the adventure. We left Portland, traveled down. First filming location. We were in the Sierras, kind of all over in the general region. We didn't make it up to Sierra Camp, but we were in the area,
Mm.
um, and we did some filming. And it was so beautiful, but extremely hot. Like it's hunting season.
Yeah.
So it was like us and a lot of hunters and fishermen, and everyone was talking about, it's like, the animals aren't coming around because of the heat.
Oh, so
I don't hunt. I don't
you
know
got to
how it
go up
works.
higher than where it's cooler. That would make sense, I would think. I Tell me if that's wrong, people
I
with
don't know.
guns. Can you talk about what you saw?
Well, up
What
on,
you
you
and
know
Brett both
what?
saw?
We came into, we took a really squirrely road. It was absolutely beautiful. Like, we hadn't, this was the road that was closed in the winter when Brett, Mike, and I were originally going down to Southern California. But we took the scenic road this time, as opposed to when we drove in to go to the Sierra camp to hike in. And this is kind of off topic, but worth mentioning. Brett was getting some shots, some scenic stuff, and here come two dudes. They park their van alongside the road and get out, put on their helmets, and they have like their skateboards.
Oh, nice.
And Brett's like, wait a minute. He's like, are you guys gonna bomb the hill? They're like, yeah. Brett's like, well, let me pop up a drone and film you guys. And they're like, okay, cool. And holy hell, those guys are fast. I mean, they're probably going about 60 miles per hour down this crazy curved road. I don't know when Brett will be able to get that
Oh,
footage,
wow.
but
Are these longboards?
they were like these modified. They weren't longboards per se. I thought that they were going to be laying down on them, kind of
Hmm.
like bobsled type. You know what I mean? The was it luge or whatever, skeleton thing or
Yeah.
whatever they call it in the Winter Olympics. But
Oh,
they
yeah.
were like these modified skateboards with like super traction wheels. I was honestly scared to death. I was like, we're going to film a terrible accident because
Right.
cars are whipping around those corners,
This is going to be an insurance claim video.
Yeah. Yeah, but they made it. They were okay. So that happened. But otherwise, we were filming some recreations and additional footage to go along with the experiences up at Sierra Camp. How do I put this? So we were filming a time lapse of the stars. Beautiful clear evening. We had time lapse cameras set up in multiple positions, and at one point there was a hill. We're facing a hill, and all of a sudden we're like, what's that light doing on the hill? And you go through that process, like, is it a cell tower? Is it man-made? Is it a cabin? Is it a campsite? This, that, and the other. It's like, it just didn't seem right. So Brett got photos of it. It's in the time lapse, and it just ate at us because we're like, it just doesn't. We have to go back and do our due diligence
Mm.
and look at it from the same location the next day. Same location, next day. Brett puts the drone up. I have binoculars. We're taking photos. There's no camp. This is like rugged, rocky.
Right.
That light did not belong there. And it was just weird. It wasn't
Well, I
right.
mean, but
So,
this isn't the first time something like this has happened either out that way. So it
yeah.
kind of makes sense. It's in proximity to the correct ridge, right? Too same
It
ridge
was,
or different one.
do you know where it was? Do you remember as we were going in, like when we were kind of pulled over trying to get our bearings and figure out like where we needed to go?
Yeah.
It was that range right on the other side of the road.
Okay. Okay. On the other side. Okay.
Like
Okay.
on the other side of the road.
Interesting.
So,
Hmm.
yeah. And so we still need to do some more detective work and really like dig into that footage. But
Yeah. Well, um, I'm down for an adventure in the future for sure. But that's pretty incredible. I can't wait to see the photos. I saw the photos of what happened last time, and that was super bright and weird. That didn't make a lot of sense, especially since we had someone with us that understood what they were looking at as far as trail systems up in that area and given the scope. of the
Yeah.
light itself. You know, it just would take going back to it, checking it
Well,
out.
we can do that. We can do that. So that was our adventure in the Sierras, and we are racing the clock to wrap up all of our filming because right when we think we're nearing the finish line, more things come up. And so, in a good way, it means we have more people to interview, more stuff that we're having access to that has not been discussed before. So, our goal is to have filming wrapped by the end of the year, and then we will have it finished in 2025. Where we're going to premiere it, I don't know. When it will be done, I don't know, but we'll see. We'll just trust the process, as they say.
I want to get into this hoaxed trackway.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. You don't need, you want to skip over. We're not even going to talk about us filming for a Flash of Beauty 3 on the road, which was amazing, by the way.
Oh yeah, no, let's definitely talk about that. Anything you want to share?
It was beautiful.
I mean, I know you
This,
can't share a lot, so
yeah,
all
you
you can
know,
say
and
is it's
this has been
beautiful. Yeah.
the these interviews and the people that we're meeting and the way things are falling into place. One thing we've learned is not to force interviews, not don't make things happen. The interview, everything's been a gift. This, especially this segment of or this installment of A Flash of Beauty, and we're just letting it lead us instead of us trying to, like in a typical film project, I have like pages of schedules and logistics and budgetary stuff and trying to and just harassing people nonstop to make their schedules fit with ours. With this one, it's more, it will happen when it happens, and we're just gonna go with the flow.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I'll tell you this: when we went up to Alaska, we actually had a friend who lives in Homer who was like, the weather is going to be terrible, the forecast is bad. You guys should cancel. Just reschedule. It's like not an option. We're coming, and that's what's going to happen. But we felt we had to be there. We needed to show up because,
Yeah.
not to be like inspirational sports talk, but it's the whole thing. Like there's so much. It's just showing up to see what happens. You
Well,
know.
yeah, and winter's coming too. I mean, it's kind of like you got to wait till next year at that point.
Yeah, it's like the worst case scenario. What? It's going to be bad weather. We're from the Pacific
Right.
Northwest.
Yeah.
I mean, how bad is it going to be? And when we showed up, blue skies, sunshine.
Hmm.
It's like at U of O. What do they say? It's always sunny at Autzen Stadium, or there's something about there. They talk about how it's always sunny at Autzen, and
It's kind of true. I've been to a couple rainouts, but yeah, it is always sunny
for
odds.
the most part,
Hmm.
maybe that's more of a figurative. Like the wind is sunny. I don't know,
Yeah.
but the weather forecast was to be like socked in with fog and very dramatic and moody. Blue skies, sunshine, absolutely beautiful.
That's great.
Even today on our shoot, not Sasquatch related, river related, but we were actually filming at the Port of Vancouver, and it was so like driving in, coming across the bridge from Portland. It was beautiful and sunny, but then it's like you turn left to go towards the port, and it's like, oh my god, it was like this ominous just bank of clouds, and it was freezing cold and windy and miserable. But as soon as talent showed up and we were set up, as soon as Mike and Brett started rolling, the sun breaks through. So we just learned to trust the process, and that's what we're doing with A Flash of Beauty 3.
The films would have never happened had you not had that attitude.
We just got to show up.
It's the right attitude,
Just
Jill.
show up. Yeah. So, so you wanted to talk about those photos?
Well,
You
I
saw them,
saw,
right?
yeah, he sent me some photos, and I was just like, well, those look familiar.
Right.
And so what happened?
Okay. So about 2 weeks ago, Brett is reached. Someone reaches out to Brett personally, not through the Flash of Beauty page, but reaches out to him and is like, "Look, like I'm an outdoorsman, and I was in like the deep back country. This is like in Montana
Oh,
or
I love this.
something, and like I was about 5 miles deep, and and there we found this trackway that went on for blah blah. It was a very, yeah, I mean, it was like, okay, okay, it sounds familiar. This is tracks with other stories we've heard, and then the footprints disappeared, but this was like the only good photo I could get. The photo is it was a cropped photo, and maybe like with a filter thrown on it, of that infamous Yeti footprint with the pickaxe, the ice pick
Yeah,
next to
it's
it.
called the
He
Shipton photo,
he
and it's
cropped out
yeah,
the ice pick
yeah,
and like put like a filter on it, and Brett's like, yes, this is a very convincing photo. However, there is a history to it,
yeah,
and and not in you always have to be careful because you don't know what if someone's been,
yeah.
maybe like someone gave him the photo and he didn't know different, but
Mm.
handle people with care because you just don't know what people are going through. But Brett posted the original photo and kind of did these like, well, do you want to talk about the comparison, and kind of did a winky smiley face. Well, that killed the conversation right there.
Wah,
but
wah.
But it's interesting because going through, so I put on my detective hat and was going through his Facebook profile, and it's an outdoors guy. He does outdoorsy stuff. I don't question that, but no mutual friends, no researchers or investigators or anything. It was just odd. But I keep coming back. I'm like, well, was he trying to?
These are grown men that doing this. It's crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
it's they have ladies in their lives, and they're
Well,
allowing
maybe
their men to
not.
maybe not. Yeah, they're begging for ladies in their lives, and they're playing with Bigfoot photos and cropping out pickaxes. It's totally bonkers. Like it makes me not want to be in this anymore. Hearing those kind of stories, like losers like that, like only a class ass would do something like that. And Brett's more of, I guess he has more patience for that kind of stuff than I do.
Yes, we handle people with care. Like, well, we had that happen to us at the UFO festival in McMinnville. Remember the
Oh,
guy who?
yeah, yes. We
And
had a
I
lot of
palmed him
action.
off on you. I was like, "There you go." Um, yeah, I was approached by a young man who's like, "Have you ever seen a real
Right,
Sasquatch?" And I'm like, "No." Look, and I'm just going to
right.
be very blunt. I have never had like a sighting.
Hmm.
So, but he's like, do you want to see what they look like?" And I'm like, "Yes, I
Yeah.
do."
Note to people, if you're gonna come tell a Bigfoot story, and the audience is going within 2 minutes, the audience is going, "Oh, you should tell that story over here. They'd really love it." That means that you should stop talking, and you should probably reevaluate your storytelling skills. I'm just letting you know.
Basically, this guy starts showing me photos, stills from Todd
Yeah.
Standing's. I'm like,
Right.
these are Todd Standing's
Yeah.
photos. And he's like, no, they're
Right.
mine. And I'm like,
Right.
well, then you have some explaining to do. He's like, no, I let Todd borrow these because he's a friend.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, oh, I'm like, so where did you take these? He's like, at Mount Hood, above the timberline, like above the timberline. And I was like,
I mean, there
and
are dubious mistakes, and then there's nefarious mistakes. And
it was so awkward though,
yeah.
and I didn't know how to get out of it. I did not know how to give out because I'm like, meanwhile, people want to like, oh, do you have this T-shirt in a size large? And then I'm like having to look at these photos where I'm like, and so I'm like, Tobe, you
No.
should talk to him,
Oh, yeah.
and you were like, thanks.
I got to go to the bathroom and Yeah.
Good
So
times.
that's one. Uh, I don't know. In the few minutes that we have here, we're kind of pressing up against our hour here. I wanted to show, since we're talking about footprints here, Larry and Inella from the Macaw Reservation were in the mountains with us when we did Olympic Strange Days, and they found some tracks. You know, I gave them about a half hour in the mud with me with some hydrocal, and they watched me do it, and it's not that hard. And so they just started wandering the lake bed, and they found something kind of interesting, and they ended up just casting it about 300 yards away from where we were talking about how to do it. And so I'm going to try to play this video here. Can you go to that
Yeah.
little thing that I have queued
Yeah.
up?
And they're
Yeah, that's what
really
we're-
hard. You couldn't
Really
see
hard.
them.
Yeah.
You can see left foot,
You can see it.
left foot, right foot.
And you numbered them. Look at you guys.
I know.
You're on top.
Yeah, that's the one thing. It's like
That was a whole trackway.
a child with that small of foot. Unless they're
So as they, this shot here shows it a little bit better.
that's not even normal.
If they were running, they'd be on their toes.
So I'm just going to pause it. This step down in here that I'm showing is about 3.5 to 4 feet. And it's probably, if I think I got this right, I think it's about a size 6 or so. So it's childlike. The toes are all pushed together, and it has kind of a waddled step, but it is semi in line, right? And we'll show a little bit more of that in video. And of course, these are all human tracks of boaters when, you know, before the lake was drained out, blah, blah, blah. There's evidence of boots and, you know, other people walking around. But it doesn't really matter what this is. It points to something interesting. And so if you ever see anything that's interesting like this, just cast it. And that's what these guys did. They're just like, well, this is interesting because it's in line a little bit, because of its step nature. So it's only about a minute more.
Dude, if you ever run barefoot, it's toes.
Jeff, you were there.
That.
This one right here, 2 to 3 is like almost 3 feet or more, huh?
They're all 4. We measured them.
Exactly 4 feet.
We got it measured with your tape measure.
We used your tape measure.
Okay.
Some of them are a little over 4.
Wait, you're saying from
Like
the
from my
heel to
side
toe is 4 feet?
Middle to
Not
middle.
middle to middle.
Okay. So measure from.
So the deal, of course, is when you run, you have a compliant gait and you throw your foot in front of the other foot. So that's part of the issue here that I had with the track, is that it reminded me of a kid running in the beach or the sand. Not saying that's what it is. And, you know, all the credit to Larry and Inilla for casting that. And so anyway, I just thought I would share that now that we know how to share video with sound.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
a very good dress rehearsal that we will
Yeah.
utilize.
There's a
Okay.
little bit of buffering issue because it's 4K GoPro, but we'll work with it.
And hey, so can I?
Yeah,
are we
go ahead and
done?
exit
Okay.
it out. Yeah.
Okay. So I do want to mention off topic, but I don't know. This does tie into Sasquatch somewhat. So the other day, the Wall Street Journal posted an article, and it was that the Cheetos food coloring is turning mice transparent, that the dye is altering the optical qualities of the skin, allowing the light to pass through.
Oh,
And I know, like, this is a stretch. Work with me here. I know people talk about possibly, you know, the light bending abilities or effects of Sasquatch hair and stuff. I wonder if there's
fiber
a
optics.
connection. By no means am I saying that the good folks at Frito Lay are utilizing Sasquatch hair DNA to flavor
Cheeto is
our
back
orange
engineered
snack foods.
Sasquatch hair. I love it.
I should. I could be the crazy person writing Frito
Right.
Lay. I have concerns.
Right. We need a Cheeto sponsorship. We'll
I'm
take
not against that. But have you heard about? Are you
it.
familiar
No.
with that? How many? So how? If it's doing that to mice, we need a volunteer to
To
be
eat
consuming
nothing but Cheetos?
go on a strict orange Cheeto diet to
Okay.
see the
Nancy
effects.
Fry. I think Nancy Fry is probably the perfect person to go on a 30-day Cheeto diet. So, Nancy, It's up for you in the name of science. I want to see nothing but orange stained fingers. I want to smell that peppery breath of yours
It'll be like Super
walking through a
Size
room.
Me, but all
Yeah,
Cheeto.
that cheesy breath.
And we'll be like monitoring your skin, and if we can see like the
Just a
translucent, like,
permanent
oh,
orange
you're
stain around your lips, like a
Ugh.
fiery stain. Cheeto
So
face.
I just wanted to mention that. And oh, you know what? Today, it was announced, and I know you're kind of in the loop on this too, because you did the podcast. So Brett was invited to attend, be a guest at the CryptidCon UK that Daniel Lee Barnett is putting on.
Oi, matey, there are Bigfoot over here, blimey. Was that
Man,
good?
and the whole like UK wild man
Yeah.
thing is such a. We'll have to save that for another live stream discussion. But I have so many questions, and I actually did a podcast with someone out of the UK, and they're like, "Well, we have the dog man and all sorts of hairy men here," and I'm just like,
But since they have the metric system, would it be like big meter? Is that is that right? Instead of Bigfoot?
the wild man. I don't know,
Well,
green
yeah,
man. I
they
don't
can't
know.
have the foot, so they have to have the meter.
Hmm.
Um,
But that's next Memorial Day weekend, so we have time. So we'll circle back. Um, we'll talk about that more as we get closer. But I don't know. In the meantime, that's all I got. I do have a question for everyone, just out of my own curiosity, and you can say this in the chat or message us. If anyone out there has a good lead on someone we can talk to who knows about, people talk about all the different variations of Sasquatch, like how there's the more human resembling type, and the more ape like type, the more hyena.
oh, with the snout
It,
like a baboon. Yeah.
yeah, like all these different variations. If anyone has a good recommendation on who to talk to get,
Well, what's that guy's Will Jevning, right? He's the guy that says there's four types. He's got a whole book about it, and he talks about exactly what you're saying. And it's all been debriefed to him by his private intel. I think he used to co-host Sasquatch Chronicles with Wes Germer, and then they had a falling out. He used to live in Vancouver or Portland area, I think. I
oh
think
really?
on the West
What's
Coast
his
at
name?
one time. Will Jevning, Will Jevning. He's got his own thing going on. He might be hard to reach, but if anybody can make some suggestions here, reach out online and let
If
us
anyone's
know.
friends with him, just say there's a filmmaker in Portland who has questions.
There's a woman with Cheeto stains. That's how I'm
Yeah,
gonna start every
with
sentence.
translucent skin,
Oh yes,
not clothing, skin.
so hot. Hey, I just wanted to mention real quick. Once a month, starting the 23rd of October in Port Townsend, Washington, at the Anchor Tavern on the 23rd from 7 to close. We're going to start Olympic Strange Days live. And that's your chance to come. I actually, Nancy and I ate there just yesterday, I think, and we did a dry run, a tech rehearsal, if you will, and set up my podcast equipment, found the right little place to do it. There's a big screen right above the bar. It's a really historic, cool, haunted old bar. Like Port Townsend was the original Seattle before Seattle. There's Shanghai tunnels underneath this bar with the ghost of Chinaman. It's a very interesting bar. The whole town is haunted, and it's October. It's Halloween. There's like all sorts of masquerade balls and witches balls and all sorts of stuff. So we're going to be there once a month, every third Wednesday of the month. My hope is on the 23rd, we could pack this out with Paranormal Junkies. So if you go to my Facebook page, look up Tobe Johnson. I announced it It gives you directions how to get there. The 23rd, 7 to close. I'm going to try to get Brett and Jill and Mike to log in for 10 minutes or so, talk about what's coming up on the big screen. Rich Germeau will be there with me. I know there's some people online that are going to show up as well. It's our kind of hangout. Like this is, you're not going to like a Sherry's banquet room or something like this. Like this is a historic, cool pub called the Anchor on Water Street in Port Townsend. You want to be there. And oh, by the way, there's like a haunted castle 5 minutes away, Manresa Castle, where I used to do this. That place, people come from all over the country to ghost hunt there. So there's a lot of strangeness going on in Port Townsend in general. I'll give you some more updates next week on future guests that we're going to have.
Awesome. Sounds good.
All right, Jill. Well, I think that's it for me. It's always a pleasure. And
Always.
I literally think I'm going to go talk Aaron and Cooper into putting on their warmest Carhartts and driving up to a mountain to go see these other flashes of beauty called the Aurora.
Okay. Thank you for specifying.
I'm giving you bangers here, and you look at me like I'm a total.
Ew.
Yeah, whatever.
Hey.
Okay.
Alrighty, thanks everybody. If you have access to the Northern Lights, go out and see them. It's beautiful.
All right. Toodaloo.